Chapter 13:18. Are you guys going to gang up on me? Yunchujio puffed her cheeks and said angrily, Big brother guard, this is what you said. If you have the ability, then don't hide. After saying that, Yunchujio shot several small purple needles at the man. The guard curled his lips and waved his hands up and down, catching all the small purple needles in his hands. Then he said arrogantly, Stupid girl, did you see that? With your spiritual power materialization, you are so weak. The man's voice was covered by a few explosions. The man's arm was instantly blown away. Before he could cry out in pain, a few more purple needles shot into the man's face. After a few explosions, the man died on the spot. Yunchujio covered her mouth. Oh my god, am I just playing with you? Didn't you say that my needles can't hurt you? How did you die? It's so strange. The three guards finally understood that this little girl had been pretending to be crazy. Suddenly, one of them pounced on Yunchujio. Stupid girl. So you've been playing with us. You're courting death. As the man spoke, he shot a spiritual attack at Yunchujio. His spiritual attack was an eagle. Yunchujio did not dodge and rushed up to the man's attack. The palace master's wife almost cried out. Had the little girl gone mad? The guard was also shocked. Could it be that this little girl was really a fool? Was she not faking it? Otherwise, why would she not dodge and even take the initiative to approach? Unexpectedly, just as Yunchujio approached the spiritual energy materialized eagle, she suddenly jumped up. The eagle pecked at Yunchujio, but Yunchujio's body flashed with several rays of light to block its attack. Almost at the same time, Yunchujio threw a stack of talismans at the man. As the man was attracted by Yunchujio's suicide, his reaction was a little slow. He dodged most of the talismans, but he was still hit by a few talismans. After a few loud explosions, the man was blown into a bloody mess on the ground. Yunchujio threw another supreme-grade explosive talisman at him. After the loud explosion, the man could not be more dead. Both the remaining two guards and the palace master's wife were shocked. In less than an hour, a little girl at the 5th level of the spirit sect had killed 2 masters at the 2nd level of the spirit paragon realm. How was this possible? Although both of them were opportunistic, this was too unbelievable. Moreover, where did she get so many talismans? There were 30 to 40 talismans thrown just now. Because of the huge commotion caused by the explosive talismans, 3 of the 4 guards at the back of the courtyard ran over to check. When the palace master's wife saw Yunchujio's hand gesture behind her back, although she was very worried about Yunchujio's safety, she still followed the plan and carefully went around to the back of the warehouse. At this moment, Yunchujio was surrounded by 5 guards in the middle. Stinky girl, I didn't expect you to have some skills. You actually killed the 2 of us. However, no matter how strange you are, you will die here today. Yunchujio shrugged her shoulders. Are you guys planning to gang up on me? 5 spirit paragons ganging up on me, a 5th level spirit sect trash? One of them sneered. Stinky girl, it's useless to goad me. Brothers, go and kill this stinky girl. The spiritual attacks of the 5 people shot toward Yunchujio. Yunchujio's body shimmered with light. The defensive spiritual weapons that she had obtained from the Qi Ling of the 9 Serenities crypt could be considered useful. Even so, Yunchujio felt that she could not hold on for too long. She could only hope that the palace master's wife and Xiao He could save the secret guards as soon as possible. Chapter 13:19 has a mission for you all. Yunchujio's brain was working non-stop. She had to think of a way to stall for time. Hence, she pointed at the sky and said, Hall Master. The Hall Master is back. The 5 of them were shocked and subconsciously looked up at the sky. Of course, there was nothing there. Yunchujio took advantage of their little distraction to escape from the encirclement. Then she turned around and threw a talisman and a big sack. The 5 of them knew how powerful Yunchujio's talisman was and quickly dodged to the side. However, they did not expect the sack to be blown into pieces by the talisman. The chili inside instantly scattered everywhere. The 5 of them thought that it was poison and quickly held their breath. However, their noses and mouths were fine, but their eyes were damaged. Immediately, they choked until tears flowed down their faces. Yun Chujio took advantage of this time and kept throwing talismans. She did not have any hopes of killing the 5 of them, as long as she could stop them from chasing after her. The 5 of them were not fools. They could not approach her from the front, so 3 of them rushed over from the side and once again surrounded Yun Chujio in the middle. "Stinky girl, you are indeed full of tricks. Let's see what other tricks you have up your sleeve this time." Yun Chujio was feeling a little anxious. Why hadn't the secret guards come out yet? If they didn't come out now, all her spirit tools would be gone. Right at this moment, several secret guards of the Temple of Immortals rushed out from the courtyard and attacked the 5 secret guards of the Temple of Immortals. The 5 guards turned pale with fright. It was over. They had fallen into the damn girl's trick of luring the tiger away from the mountain. The 5 of them could only shout loudly, "Someone come quickly! Help! Someone come quickly!" However, it was already too late. The secret guards of the Temple of Immortals had been holding back a long time ago. Fuck, they had actually been captured by such a cowardly person. It was simply a great humiliation. When those brothers who had gone out returned, they would definitely laugh their teeth out. Only by killing these bastards of the Netherworld Palace would they be able to wash away this humiliation. There were more than 300 secret guards of the Temple of Immortals trapped in this courtyard, so it was naturally not difficult for them to deal with 5 people. In less than 15 minutes, 5 people were killed. The palace master's wife was still concerned about the trapped servants and guards, so she was about to rush to the courtyard where the servants were being held. Yun Chujio stopped her. After sending some secret guards to guard, she said to the secret guards, "Immediately choose the 20 people with the highest spiritual power and the best movement techniques among you. It'll give you an arduous task." Soon, 20 people were chosen from the secret guards. Go and destroy the array core of the 8 Gates Golden Lock Array. The array core must be where the array core used to be, because only by setting it up there will it cover the entire Temple of Immortals. After you destroy the array core, immediately send a message to the Temple Master and His Excellency. Take these concealment talismans and supreme-grade explosive talismans, in case you need them in the future. Remember, no matter what happens on our side, you must focus on your task. You must change the array core. Do you understand? Yun Chujio asked sternly. "I understand." After this incident, the Dark Guard's opinion of Yun Chujio had changed 180 degrees. Their tone was full of respect. "All right, take advantage of the fact that the enemy is still in chaos. Hurry up and move." "Yes." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. She handed Xiao Hei Rat to one of the Dark Guards. "This is my spiritual pet. You can let it help pass the message. In addition, you saw that it is good at digging holes. Maybe it can help you." The guard said seriously, "Miss Jiu, don't worry. I will protect Xiao Hei's life." Yun Chujio nodded. The guard took Xiao Hei away with him. After the 20 people left, Yun Chujio and the palace master's wife led the guards to the courtyard where the servants were being held. On the way, they met some guards of the Netherworld Palace. They were killed one by one. Soon, they arrived at the courtyard. The 2 guards at the door saw that the situation was not good and immediately ran away. Chapter 13:20 Listen to Little Nine's arrangements. Everyone was naturally overjoyed after meeting up. However, Yun Chujio said seriously, "Everyone, don't be happy too early. We are still caged birds. The number of people from the Netherworld Hall should be much more than ours. It will definitely be a tough battle." The palace mistress glanced at everyone and then said, "From now on, all of you listen to Little Nine's arrangements. If anyone disobeys her orders, you will not be let off lightly." Yes. Even if the palace master's wife did not say anything, everyone was completely convinced by Yun Chujio. Although they did not know the whole process, the palace master's wife had been captured previously, so it must have been the 9th Miss who saved the palace master's wife. In other words, their survival was actually all thanks to the 9th Miss. The palace master's wife could not help but smile bitterly in her heart when she saw everyone's performance. She had always looked down on the little rascal, but she did not expect the little rascal to be much calmer than her when it came to real matters. Just now, she was in a hurry to save these people. She didn't even consider the whole situation. The most important thing was to destroy the formation's core. Little Nine's strategy was right. If their main force went over, the Netherworld Palace would definitely do their best to guard the formation's core. They wouldn't have a chance at all. However, now that their main force, especially her, was here, the Netherworld Palace's people would definitely place their emphasis on this place. That way, the 20 people would have a chance to destroy the formation's core. And, is there any place around here that is easy to defend but hard to attack? Before their people arrive, let's move to that place. It would be best if it is a death zone on one side. That way, we don't have to worry about being attacked from both sides. Yun Chujio asked the palace master's wife. The palace master's wife thought for a moment and said, "Not far from here, there is a small training ground for the guards. One side is a mountain, and under the mountain is 100 zhang poison abyss. Let's go there." Yun Chujio nodded. "Okay, let's go there. Let's go." Yun Chujio divided the people into 3 groups. She had 2 groups guard the 2 sides of the training field while she and the palace master's wife guarded the main gate. Yun Chujio asked everyone to take out their protective array discs. The palace master's wife said, "Little Jio, this training field is quite big. I'm afraid this small array disc won't work." Yun Chujio nodded. "I know. I'm going to distribute these protective disc arrays to the guards so that they can hold on for a while longer." After Yun Chujio distributed the disc arrays to the guards, she took out the explosive talismans on her body and distributed them to them. This way, they could hold on for a while at least. Just as Yun Chujio finished making the arrangements, the main force of the Netherworld Palace arrived. Just as Yun Chujio had expected, there were more than 1,000 people. Not only were there 3 times as many people as there were here, but the majority of them had high spiritual power. The difference in strength between the 2 sides was too great. It was very unlikely that they would be able to win. They could only try their best to stall for time until the reinforcements of the pretty boy arrived. The leader of the Hall of the Dead was a sallow-faced person. It should be that Dharma Protector Tao. Dharma Protector Tao had originally thought that the operation this time was 90% successful. He had never expected that something had gone wrong and these people who had been captured actually ran out. The reason why he did not use more people to guard the captives was firstly because the people from the Netherworld Hall had to patrol everywhere, especially the front hall which had arranged many people, afraid that de-beaming would lead people to counterattack. Secondly, he had thought that all the people from the Temple of Immortals had been captured. Moreover, they had been imprisoned in the back hall with their spiritual power, so there was no chance of them escaping. That was why he had been careless. Chapter 1321, Bear and Bear. When Dharma Protector Tao learned that the captives of the Temple of Immortals had escaped, the first thing he did was naturally pay attention to whether or not the palace master's wife had escaped. In the end, not only had the palace master's wife disappeared, even his own uncle had disappeared without a trace. When he asked those guards, only then did he know that his own uncle had done those stupid things, and he almost fainted from anger. From the looks of it, the matter must have been with the palace master's wife. That slut must have had some immortal artifact on her, and after removing the spiritual power restriction, she had killed his uncle. Therefore, when Dharma Protector Tao came to the outside of the martial arts practice field, although he saw the palace master's wife standing with a little girl, he didn't put Yun Chujio in his eyes at all. Dharma Protector Tao signaled for his people to stop moving forward. Then he sneered at the palace master's wife and said, "Palace master's wife, I didn't expect you to hold back. I was really careless. However, your efforts are useless. As long as I give the order, you will still be taken down by us. Moreover, it is inevitable that you will die in the process of fighting. Therefore, I advise you to be sensible and surrender voluntarily." Dharma Protector Tao knew that although he had the advantage, if they were to really fight, it would not be over in a short time. It was better not to fight if he could avoid it. Before the palace master's wife could say anything, Yun Chujio curled her lips and said, "So what if there are many people? What's the use of a bunch of useless people? If you ask me, it is only right that you surrender as soon as possible. Otherwise, I will kill all of you." Dharma Protector Tao was furious. "Where did this little girl come from? Do you have the right to speak here?" Palace master's wife, You don't want this little girl to talk to me, do you? Unexpectedly, Madam Palace Master nodded. That's right. Little Nine will be in charge of all our matters here. Dharma Protector Tao couldn't believe his ears. Could this Madam Palace Master have been provoked to madness? She actually let a little girl take full responsibility? This little girl was just a little trash at the 5th level of the spirit sect. How could she be valued by Madam Palace Master? Dharma Protector Tao, since both sides are evenly matched and don't want to waste time, why don't we have a competition? Do you dare to compete? Yun Chujio said with a cold smile. Competition? What kind of competition? Dharma Protector Tao asked in confusion. It's very simple. We'll have 5 rounds and 3 wins out of 5 rounds. As long as either side loses, they are willing to accept their loss and give up resisting. What do you think? Yun Chujio said provocatively. Dharma Protector Tao was amused. Little girl, do you think I'm an idiot? We have the advantage and we don't need to compete with you. From what you said, you're afraid of losing. But that's right. Your netherworld hull only knows how to scheme and scheme. You're really not up to the table. Yun Chujio pouted and said. Dharma Protector Tao was so embarrassed that he became angry. He shouted angrily, "Stupid girl, don't talk nonsense. Otherwise, I'll kill you first." Your reaction is so strong, could it be that I was right? As the leader, you actually have no confidence in your subordinates. What do you think your subordinates will think? As the saying goes, a sheep leading a pack of wolves cannot defeat a pack of sheep led by a wolf. This soldier bear nest. Yun Chujio hugged her shoulders, she shook her legs and was very arrogant. You are courting death. Dharma Protector Tao attacked Yun Chujio with his spiritual power. His spiritual power materialized into a colorful tiger, and it already had some intelligence. It pounced towards Yun Chujio. The palace master's wife raised her hand and attacked the tiger with her spiritual power. It was the first time Yun Chujio saw the palace master's wife attack. The palace master's wife's spiritual power materialized into a peacock. Yun Chujio could not help but complain. The thing materialized from spiritual power was indeed related to human nature. This old hag was just like a peacock. Then this guy remembered his spiritual power materialized into a little piglet. Chapter 1322 was bullshit. Dharma Protector Tao's spiritual power peacock blocked Dharma Protector Tao's spiritual power tiger. The two spiritual powers collided with a dazzling light and dissolved each other. However, it was obvious that Dharma Protector Tao's spiritual power level was higher than Dharma Protector Tao's because Dharma Protector Tao was very relaxed, but Dharma Protector Tao's wife had used her full strength in this attack. Yun Chujio decided to put the matter of the little piggy aside for the time being. She said mockingly, Dharma Protector Tao is really… TSK, he's really amazing. He can even attack a little girl at the 5th level of the spirit sect. He's really a great hero. How about this, let's change the bet. If our side loses, we'll immediately surrender and let you do whatever you want. If you lose, you'll give us 10 hours to catch our breath. That way, you'll at least dare to accept the challenge, right? Dharma Protector Tao's eyes flickered. He naturally understood Yun Chujio's intention. She was stalling for time. He weighed the pros and cons. If the two sides fought, it would probably take a few hours to determine the final winner. If they agreed to the competition, if they could win, it would reduce the casualties. Even if they failed, letting them delay for 10 hours would not affect the overall situation. Dharma Protector Tao weighed the pros and cons and said, all right, I agree with what you said. 3 out of 5 wins. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Words have no basis. You have to swear an inner demon oath. They'll go first. Heaven is above. If the longevity hall loses the competition, we will surrender voluntarily. If we go against the oath, we will let the heavenly lightning strike me to death. Strike me with all your strength. Strike me for 10 hours. I'm done talking. It's your turn, Dharma Protector Tao. Dharma Protector Tao could not help but laugh inwardly when he saw that Yun Chu had actually made such a vicious heart demon oath. This was just a reckless little girl. He did not know what the lady of the hallmaster was thinking, but she had actually allowed her to do as she pleased. However, this was a good thing for them. Dharma Protector Tao had also made a heart demon oath. Of course, his words were not as serious as Yunchujius. He only said that if they went against their oath, they were willing to be punished by the Tian Dao or something like that. Both sides had reached an agreement. The people of the Netherworld Hall retreated some distance, and the empty space was used as the venue for the competition. Since it was a competition, both sides naturally sent the 5 people with the strongest spiritual power to fight. The Longevity Hall chose the 5 secret guards with the highest spiritual power. However, the secret guards with the highest spiritual power were sent to destroy the core of the array, so the highest spiritual power they chose was only at the 4th level of the Supreme Spirit Realm. The Temple of the Netherworld had chosen 1 at the 5th level of the Spiritual Venerable Realm and 4 at the 4th level of the Spiritual Venerable Realm. Before the competition, Yunchujio called the 5 people to the side. She said in a low voice, "Of course it's important to win or lose, but the most important thing is to protect your little lives and try to stall for time. The oath I made is bullshit. You don't have to worry about it. Do you understand?" These 5 people had never seen Yunchujia's abnormal performance. The secret guards who had gone to the Azure Mystic Continent before had all followed Di Biming to the Spirit Stone Mine, so they did not understand what Yunchujio meant by the oath. However, they all nodded in agreement. After the competition began, although the spiritual power of the people from the Hall of the Netherworld was higher than that of the secret guards from the Hall of Longevity, it was clear that the secret guards from the Hall of Longevity had a more solid foundation of spiritual power, and their desire to survive was stronger. Therefore, after 4 rounds, it was actually 2-2 draws. The 5th round was very crucial. Yunchujia's side was left with a secret guard at the 3rd level of the Spiritual Venerable Realm, while the other side was left with a 5th level Spiritual Venerable. There was almost no suspense about the outcome of the battle. The difference of 1 level of spirit power was enough to give it a try, but the difference of 2 levels was too difficult to win. Chapter 1323 The Floating Clouds. Although the participants were not fixed and could be replaced, there was no one in the Temple of Immortals who could be replaced. The 3rd level of the Spiritual Venerable Realm was already the highest. Seeing this, the Palace Master's wife wanted to replace the secret guard in the competition. Yunchujio said with a cheeky smile, "And how can you kill a chicken with an ox knife? I'll do this competition." The Palace Master's wife hesitated for a moment. If it was in the past, she would naturally feel that Yunchujio was overestimating herself. However, she had personally seen the little girl kill 2 people at the 2nd level of the Spiritual Venerable Realm. Perhaps she could do it this time? Seeing that the Palace Master's wife was a little hesitant, Yunchujio continued, "Aunt, don't worry. I'll definitely win." The Palace Master's wife saw Yunchujio winking at her, and her heart moved. Could it be that the little rascal had some plans? Thus she said, "All right. Since that's the case, then you will fight in this round." The people of the Netherworld Palace felt that this little girl of the Longevity Palace was most likely a spy on their side. Otherwise, why would the suggestion that she made be beneficial to the Netherworld Palace? Dharma Protector Tao was also puzzled. This little girl didn't look like a fool, right? Moreover, even if she was a fool, the wife of the Temple Master shouldn't be a fool, right? Why did she really listen to this little girl in everything? Forget it. In any case, we were the one who had the upper hand. It would be best if she came out to fight. It would probably not take more than 15 minutes to defeat this little girl. At that time, the people of the Temple of Immortals would surrender. At this thought, Dharma Protector Tao signaled a middle-aged man on his side to come out to fight. "How should I address this uncle?" Yunchujio asked the person from the Netherworld Palace with a smile. The man snorted disdainfully, "Humph. If you don't want to change your name, don't change your surname. Renzuan. Little girl, cut the crap. Let's fight." "Ah, so it's Renzuan. Uncle Ren. But Uncle Ren, your name is not very auspicious. Uncle Ren, if you admit defeat, you might as well admit defeat." Yunchujio curled her lips and said. The people of the Temple of Immortals roared with laughter. Even the people of the Netherworld Palace found it amusing. However, Ren Ziyuan could not keep his face straight anymore. Darn girl! You're courting death. Ren Ziyuan was about to make his move after he finished speaking. Unexpectedly, Yun Chujio shouted loudly, Wait! Wait! You haven't asked me what my name is yet? We should return the favor. Don't you have to respect me a little? Forget it, if you don't ask, I'll introduce myself. I don't think many people know me. Don't make a move first, it's impolite. My surname is Yun, the cloud floating in the sky. Isn't my surname nice? It's perfect for a beautiful little beauty like me. Look at the cloud in the sky. There are all kinds of shapes. Some look like mountains, some look like kittens, some look like puppies. Ren Ziyuan shouted impatiently. All right, we all know your surname is Yun. What's your name? Quickly say it. Stop wasting time. I was born on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, so my name is Yun Chujio. Isn't it easy to remember and very cultured? Of course, you can also call me Ninth Miss. Yes, Little Ninth Fairy can also be called. Ren Ziyuan curled his lips in disdain. All right, I don't care whether you are Ninth Miss or Ninth Fairy. Let's start the competition. I advise you to admit defeat voluntarily. Otherwise, Humph, it's very normal for there to be casualties in this competition. Admit defeat? If you want to admit defeat, you should admit it. After all, you have a natural advantage here. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Ren Ziyuan flew into a rage out of humiliation. He attacked Yun Chujio with his spiritual power, and a huge python of spiritual power pounced at Yun Chujio with its tongue sticking out. Chapter 1324. Don't you think it's annoying? Ren Ziyuan's spirit energy python clearly had some initial intelligence. It saw Yun Chujio leap to the side, and the spirit energy python actually adjusted its direction and pounced towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio was shocked. She didn't expect that this person had already learned a high-level materialization technique. Although it was far inferior to the gigolo, it was still very difficult to deal with. Yun Chujio shot several small purple needles at the spirit energy python. Although the speed of the spirit energy python slowed down as the small purple needles exploded, it still stuck out its tongue and pounced at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio had already retreated to the edge of the competition stage. If she was forced out, then Yun Chujio would be considered to have lost. Ren Ziyuan sneered repeatedly. This stupid girl really overestimated herself. I forced you out of the competition circle with one move. She is really too weak. The people of the Temple of Immortals could not help but hold their breaths. Could it be that Miss Jiu was going to lose just like that? At this moment, everyone saw Yun Chujio suddenly jump to the side. The spirit energy python wanted to turn around and chase after her again, but its spirit energy could no longer maintain its body and dissipated. Ren Ziyuan did not expect Yun Chujio to be so fast at the critical moment. However, this was not a big deal. If you could dodge it once, could you dodge it twice? Ren Ziyuan started to attack Yun Chujio with his spiritual power again, and a new spiritual power python pounced at Yun Chujio ferociously. Yun Chujio got the inspiration from earlier and started to circle around with the spiritual power python. Although the spiritual power python was transformed from spiritual power, the animal's attributes were still there. After circling around, the spiritual power python tied itself into a knot. It was still a dead knot. Yun Chujio curled her lips. Tisi, this little loach that you materialized is really stupid. It actually tied itself together. It's even a dead knot. Don't use such a shameful spirit energy materialization technique in the future. It's really embarrassing. Ren Ziyuan was so angry that his face turned red. Although the attack power of a high-level materialization technique was greater, it also had a drawback. It could only be used single-handedly every time it attacked, unlike the middle-level and low-level materialization techniques that could be stacked several times. Therefore, Ren Ziyuan could only wait for the knotted spirit energy python to dissipate before he could attack again. Ren Ziyuan gritted his teeth and decided not to use the high-level physical transformation technique anymore. He directly used the middle-level physical transformation technique to attack Yun Chujio. Although it was still a python, it was much smaller than the previous one, and it had lost its intelligence. However, Ren Ziyuan's spirit energy level was much higher than Yun Chujio's. Even if he used the middle-level physical transformation technique, it was more than enough to deal with Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio could not hold on any longer. She was almost forced out of the ring a few times. Fortunately, she had a defensive spiritual weapon on her. If she really could not do it, she would take the spiritual power attack head-on. That was why she was not forced out of the ring. Although Ren Ziyuan had the absolute advantage, he felt very ashamed. He was at the 5th level of the supreme spiritual stage, and Yun Chujio was at the 5th level of the spirit sect. His spiritual power level was much higher than Yun Chujio's. It was a great shame that he did not win for such a long time. However, Yun Chujio was not idle. She kept talking while beating him. I was so close to getting out of the ring. So close. So close. Oh my God. So close. So close. I was so close to getting out of the ring, but my leg was pulled back. Don't you think it's infuriating? You were so close again. Uncle Ren, are you deliberately going easy on me? Do you also think that the Netherworld Palace is shameless? Is that why you did it on purpose? Chapter 1325. Yun Chujio Ren Ziyuan was so angry that his face turned red and his neck was thick. Stupid girl. Shut up. Uncle Ren, there's no rule that says you can't speak in this competition. If you want to say it, you can say it. I didn't stop you. Yun Chujio curled her lips and said. Ren Ziyuan was so angry that he increased the intensity of his attacks. However, not only was Yun Chujio agile, but every time she was about to dodge in time, her body would flash with light, and her spiritual energy attacks would be blocked by the spiritual energy barrier. TSK, Uncle Ren, I'm really sorry. I usually like to collect defensive spiritual tools, so I have at least 10,000 defensive spiritual tools on me, so you can attack me all you want. See if you run out of spiritual power first, or if my defensive spiritual tool runs out first. Yun Chujio kept provoking him. Ren Ziyuan was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. Stupid girl. I don't believe that you can't run out of defensive spiritual tools. I must kill you today. Who doesn't know how to talk big? I even said that I would kill you. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and said disdainfully. Ren Ziyuan was so angry that he attacked Yun Chujio crazily. Yun Chujio was delighted. I spent so much effort just to completely anger you. Very good. Only when you are so angry that you lose your mind, can I find a chance to counterattack. Yun Chujio was once again forced to the edge of the ring. Ren Ziyuan was afraid that Yun Chujio would use the spiritual energy shield to block his spiritual energy attack, so he directly jumped forward and prepared to kick Yun Chujio out of the ring. The moment he raised his leg, Yun Chujio suddenly threw several purple needles at him. Ren Ziyuan revealed a cold smile. Want to sneak attack me? What wishful thinking. Although your materialization of spiritual power is a little strange, I just need to set up a spiritual energy shield. Ren Ziyuan thought of this and set up a spiritual energy shield. He still kicked at Yun Chujio. Unexpectedly, Yun Chujio rolled on the ground and threw a stack of talismans at him. Ren Ziyuan was so scared that he quickly dodged back. Yun Chujio threw another talisman at him. The loud explosions continued, and several deep pits were blasted on the ground. With Ren Ziyuan's cultivation, it was not a problem for him to dodge. However, it was impossible for him to not get out of the ring. The moment Ren Ziyuan stepped out of the ring, Yun Chujio clapped her hands and laughed. Uncle Ren, I told you to admit defeat, but you didn't. Now you've lost, right? Ha. Ren Ziyuan said in a flustered and exasperated manner, This doesn't count. You're cheating. Cheating? How did I cheat? Did I say not to use the talisman? Besides, don't you know that war is never blind to cheating? Dharma Protector Tao, since you've lost, let's fight to the death in 10 hours. Yun Chujio said to Dharma Protector Tao with a smile. Dharma Protector Tao's expression was extremely unsightly. He glared at Ren Ziyuan and thought to himself, what a waste. Although he was very unwilling to keep his promise, he could only act according to the agreement after swearing the devil's oath in his heart. He ordered everyone to only surround and not attack. They would launch the attack after 10 hours. Yun Chujio returned to the palace master's wife's side and was chatting and laughing. There was no trace of nervousness at all. In fact, this fellow was very worried. Even though he tried his best to stall for time during the competition, this little bit of time was simply not enough. There was still no progress on Xiaohei's side. Even if they could destroy the formation's eye within 10 hours and spread the news, they were afraid that they would not be able to wait for the pretty boy to come to their rescue. They had to think of a way to save themselves. It would be best if they could stall for at least 2 days. Chapter 1326 Exploding These bastards. Time passed quickly, and Yun Chujio still couldn't think of any good ideas. However, this fellow wasn't idle either. With a few people surrounding her back to back, she kept drawing super-grade explosive talismans inside. The palace master's wife felt that there was something wrong with her eyes. She closed, opened, and closed them again. After repeating it a few times, she finally believed that what she was seeing wasn't an illusion. The little rascal could really draw a burst talisman just by drawing, and it was even a super-grade one. The palace master's wife recalled that she used to call Yun Chujio a little trash, and her face burned with anger. If such a little girl was a trash, then everyone would probably be trash. Seeing that 10 hours were about to pass, Yun Chujio asked someone to distribute the talisman that she had drawn. She gritted her teeth. If she really could not do it, then she could only do it. The palace mistress called Yun Chujio to the side, and after opening the isolation array, she said in a low voice, "Little Geo girl, this is the key to the treasury of the Temple of Immortals. Keep it well. If anything happens to me, you can keep this key." Yun Chujio took the key with a smile. "Aunt, I was worried that you would have a horse with a short stirrup. Now that I have the key, I'm not worried anymore." The palace master's wife was so angry that she almost vomited blood. "Little scoundrel! I only asked you to keep it for the time being. You have to return it to me when you're done. Auntie, you have to be able to survive. Otherwise, I'll just take all these good things for myself. It feels great just thinking about it." The palace master's wife glared at her. Naturally, she understood that the little girl wanted to stimulate her fighting spirit and did not want her to die. Right at this moment, a guard from the Hall of the Netherworld ran over in a panic. "Dharma Protector Tao. D. Biming is leading his men in the front hall to attack our 8 Gates Golden Lock formation." Dharma Protector Tao's expression changed. "What? Why did he come back all of a sudden? Immediately send someone to guard the formation's core. Leave half of your men behind to deal with these people. The rest of you, follow me to the front hall." Yun Chujio's heart was filled with joy. It would be easy if the gigolo came. Xiaohei was about to succeed. No matter what, they could not let the reinforcements go. They had to delay them. Hence, Yun Chujio shouted loudly, "Pooey! You guys are still bragging about how powerful your Turtle 8 formation is. I didn't expect that you guys would be scared out of your wits the moment my brother Biming came. How embarrassing! In my opinion, the Netherworld Palace belongs to the bastards. All you know is to hide in a turtle shell. You're all useless. Everyone, protect my aunt well. Don't let them take her away. If my aunt is taken as a hostage, that would be terrible." The people from the Temple of Immortals were on the verge of tears. "Miss Gio, could it be that you have lost your mind? You are purely giving them a reminder." However, the palace master's wife knew Yun Chujio's intentions. She was wise in doing so. If the formation's core could not be destroyed, even if Bei Ming attacked from the outside for 3 days, he might not be able to break in. Rin Ziyuan had long hated Yun Chujio to death. Thus, he said to Dharma Protector Tao, "Dharma Protector Tao, since the 8 Gates Golden Lock formation is unbreakable, why don't we take down these people first? With the palace master's wife as a hostage, wouldn't it be easy to deal with D. Biming?" Dharma Protector Tao felt that what he said made sense. The most important thing was to take down the palace master's wife first. Thus he said, "Go. The others' lives don't matter. Leave the palace master's wife alive." Hearing that, the people of the Netherworld Palace rushed towards the training field. They only heard Yun Chujio shouting, "Blow up these bastards." Following Yun Chujio's words, the people of the Longevity Palace threw the talismans in their hands at the people of the Netherworld Palace who were rushing over. Although the people of the Netherworld Palace had quite a high level of spiritual power, they were still unable to withstand the concentrated attacks of the talismans and were temporarily stopped from attacking. Chapter 1327. Adorable piglets. The people from the Hall of the Netherworld were hopping mad. Where did the Temple of Immortals get so many talismans? Although it was not a sudden burst of talismans, the power of the talismans was not small either. They were really difficult to deal with. The people from the Temple of Immortals heaved a sigh of relief after being stopped by the talismans. However, Yun Chujio knew that they would not be able to hold on for long. She could only hope that Xiao He and the rat would succeed. As long as the formation's core was broken and the gigolo entered, these people would not be a threat anymore. Soon, there were not many talismans left in everyone's hands. The people of the Netherworld Palace rushed forward and began to fight head-on. The primary goal of the secret guards was naturally to protect the palace master's wife and Yun Chujio. However, not only did the Netherworld Palace have the advantage in numbers, but they also had the advantage in spiritual power. Soon, they separated the palace master's wife and Yun Chujio from everyone and surrounded the two of them. Stupid girl! No matter how many tricks you have up your sleeve, you will still fall into our hands. If you don't want to suffer, quickly kneel down and beg for mercy. Ren Ziyuan said fiercely. Bah! You are a defeated opponent. If you want to kneel down, you should kneel down for me. Look at the hidden weapons. After saying that, Yun Chujio threw a stack of talismans in her hand at Ren Ziyuan. Ren Ziyuan and the other guards were so scared that they quickly retreated. They did not expect that the talismans would slowly fall to the ground. They were actually blank talismans. That damned girl is playing us. Everyone go. She must not have any more talismans. Ren Ziyuan shouted viciously. Everyone once again trapped Yun Chujio and the palace master's wife together. Yun Chujio took out another stack of talismans and shouted, "Look at the hidden weapon." Ren Ziyuan and the guards felt that Yun Chujio was definitely playing tricks again, so they did not retreat this time. Instead, they rushed towards the talismans. Unexpectedly, the talismans this time were real. Although Ren Ziyuan and the others had defensive spirit weapons to protect themselves, they were still forced back a few steps by the huge blast of air. Yun Chujio threw out the remaining talismans with a crackling sound. This fellow was extremely regretful. Fuck, if she had known earlier, she would have prepared hundreds of bags of talismans. Ren Ziyuan and the others forced their way over again. Yun Chujio repeatedly shot out small purple needles, but the effect was really limited. This fellow was extremely resentful. Fuck, why don't she let that little piglet out to try? This fellow gritted his teeth. Since it was already this time, it was fine to be embarrassed. Perhaps these people had never seen such a rare material transformation technique before, and they might be able to delay for a little longer. Hence, Yun Chujio shouted loudly, "It seems like I have to take out my trump card. You guys watch carefully. It'll scare you to death." When Ren Ziyuan and the guards of the Netherworld Palace heard Yun Chujio's words, they could not help but be on guard. This girl had a belly full of evil tricks. What was her trump card? The palace master's wife was also very curious. Could it be that this little rascal really had a trump card? Yun Chujio waved her hand, and a cute little piglet of spirit energy hopped towards Ren Ziyuan. Everyone was strangely quiet. Then, Ren Ziyuan and the guards of the Netherworld Palace laughed out loud in disdain. Pig? Smelly girl, what you materialized is actually a pig. And a little piglet? Ha! This is simply hilarious. The palace master's wife's face stiffened. Perhaps it was not wrong to say that she was a little trash in the past. Since ancient times, no one had ever materialized a pig. Moreover, it would be fine if you materialize a pig. At the very least, it would be a species with offensive power. Your materialization was cute, but would this thing have any offensive power? Chapter 1328. The pig has become a spirit. Ren Ziyuan looked at the cute little spirit energy pig and curled his lips in disdain. He waved his hand and the spirit energy python pounced towards the spirit energy pig. Everyone felt that there was no suspense. The spirit energy pig would definitely be swallowed by the python. Yun Chujio's materialization of spirit energy was not even as good as the purple needle from before. Including Yun Chujio herself, no one had confidence in the spiritual energy piglet. The reason why Yun Chujio summoned the spiritual energy piglet was to attract attention and stall for time. However, something unexpected happened. Just when the spiritual energy python opened its bloody mouth to swallow the spiritual energy piglet, the spiritual energy piglet actually jumped onto the back of the spiritual energy python and then took a bite at the head of the spiritual energy python. Although the spirit energy python kept rolling, the spirit energy piglet's 4 little hooves firmly grabbed the body of the spirit energy python and took a bite. In less than 10 breaths, the spirit energy python was completely eaten by the spirit energy piglet, and then the spirit energy piglet pounced on Ren Ziyuan. Ren Ziyuan was dumbfounded. What the hell was this thing? He originally thought that it was a piglet that didn't have much ability, but why did it look so agile? Could it be that the little girl had already learned a high-level materialize technique? How was this possible? She was barely able to learn an intermediate materialize technique. That's not right. Wasn't she at the 5th level of the spirit sect? How could she know an intermediate materialize technique at the level of a spirit saint? Ren Ziyuan felt that his brain was a little lacking. In just a moment of distraction, the spirit energy piglet had already pounced in front of him and bit down on his throat. Ren Ziyuan hurriedly dodged to the side, but the spirit energy piglet still bit his left shoulder. In an instant, his left shoulder became a bloody mess. Moreover, what was even more surprising was that according to common sense, after a physical spirit energy attack, it would basically dissipate. However, not only did the spirit energy piglet not dissipate, it became even fiercer and pounced on Ren Ziyuan again. Ren Ziyuan dodged while summoning another spiritual power python to pounce towards the spiritual power piglet. After that, there was no after, because the spiritual power piglet once again ate the spiritual power python, and then it became even fiercer. It seemed that its body size had become a little bigger. Everyone was shocked to have an epiphany. This spiritual power piglet could actually devour the opponent's spiritual power to delay its death time. This was too heaven-defying. How was this possible? There had never been anyone who could materialize something like this. In the course of the battle, wouldn't it be a great advantage? After Ren Ziyuan's shock, he simply took the treasured sword and slashed at the spirit energy piglet. An even more devastating thing happened. The spirit energy piglet actually wanted to eat the treasured sword. Fortunately, Ren Ziyuan's sword was a spirit tool, so the piglet couldn't bite it. Then, it suddenly turned around and pounced on another guard. That guard was watching the show with a dumbfounded look. He never dreamed that the materialized spirit energy would suddenly change its target. The spirit energy piglet bit his throat, and he died just like that. Everyone only felt that the piglet had turned into a spirit. Fortunately, the spirit energy piglet also exhausted its spirit energy and disappeared. Not to mention the others, even Yun Chujio herself was dumbfounded. When the little piglet gave up on biting the sword, Yun Chujio only muttered subconsciously, "You stupid pig, don't you know how to bite the person next to you?" Then she saw the little piglet really bite the guard next to it. Chapter 1329. De-biming is back. Yun Chujio now felt that there was nothing embarrassing about materializing a piglet, because this piglet was not an ordinary piglet. It was a piglet that had turned into a spirit. Yun Chujio felt very proud. If it was not because the conditions did not allow it, she would definitely bring out the Xiao Hanyo and let it see how awesome this piglet was. Ren Ziyuan's mood wasn't so good. He swallowed a hemostatic pill and said, "This little girl is very evil. Kill her to avoid future trouble." The guards of the Netherworld Palace attacked the palace mistress and Yun Chujio again. Although Yun Chujio's spiritual piglet was evil, it could still fight one-on-one. With so many people surrounding them, the spiritual piglet's help was limited. Yun Chujio and the palace master's wife were forced to retreat to the edge of the cliff. They had no way to retreat. Fortunately, at this moment, Yun Chujio sent the news of Xiao He through her spiritual sense. The array core of the 8-door golden lock array had been destroyed. Yun Chujio's expression changed. If she could hold on for a while longer, the pretty boy would rush in. At that time, she and the old witch would be saved. Although Yun Chujia's spiritual power was much lower than the palace master's wife's, it was a little easier for her to rely on the countless defensive spirit tools on her body. Yun Chujio could not help but curse in her heart. This old witch, there must be a lot of treasures in the Temple of Immortals treasury. You should have more defensive spirit tools on you, you're really stupid. This fellow did not even think about it. Who could be as perverted as her to have thousands of defensive spirit tools on her body? Moreover, her spiritual sense could not stand it. Therefore, besides protecting herself, Yun Chujio also had to help the palace lord's wife from time to time. In any case, this fellow would let her attack as she pleased. At most, she would shatter a few defensive spirit tools. Dharma Protector Tao saw that they couldn't attack for a long time, so he joined the battle and went straight for the palace lord's wife. Dharma Protector Tao was at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm. The moment he joined, the palace lord's wife became even more passive. Her body was also injured. Although it wasn't fatal, it was dripping with blood. It looked very horrifying. Seeing the palace master's wife like this, Yun Chujio could only leap forward to help block Dharma Protector Tao and the others' attacks. Several spiritual power attacks landed on Yun Chujio's body, and the defensive spiritual device on this guy's body began to crack. This guy's heart ached terribly, but he could not just watch the old witch get captured. Although the old witch's words were harsh, she was still not bad to her. Just as Yun Chujio and the palace master's wife could not hold on any longer, Di Baiming rushed in with his men. Di Baiming waved his hand, and a huge spirit power ice dragon charged towards Dharma Protector Tao and the others. Dharma Protector Tao and the others hurriedly dodged in shock. The spirit power ice dragon turned around and bit towards Dharma Protector Tao. Dharma Protector Tao turned pale with fright. Not only was this ice dragon huge in size, it actually had such intelligence. It was too terrifying. At the same time, the secret guards of the Temple of Immortals rushed over and forced Ren Ziyuan and the others to retreat. Yun Chujio and the palace master's wife could finally catch their breath. Di Baiming's body was full of killing intent. He did not dare to imagine what would happen if he came in a quarter of an hour later. These people deserve to die. Previously, Di Baiming's spiritual power was suppressed in the Qingxian continent, so this was the first time Yun Chujio saw Di Baiming's real spiritual power. It was also the first time she saw the elegance of the top experts in the Tianyuan continent. Although Dharma Protector Tao was at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm, in front of Di Baiming, he could only parry without being able to fight back. In less than 15 minutes, he was beaten by Di Baiming until he vomited blood and fainted. 2 secret guards came forward to guard Dharma Protector Tao. Chapter 1330. A thin-skinned girl like me. The Netherworld Palace was leaderless, and they were quickly killed by the secret guards of the Temple of Immortals. The process of capturing the captives was like chopping melons and cutting vegetables. Yun Chujio felt that the secret guards that were left behind in the Temple of Immortals must be fake secret guards. Otherwise, how could there be such a huge difference? In fact, what Yun Chujio did not understand was that the secret guards of the Temple of Immortals were divided into 2 parts. One part was the elites that Di Baiming had taken away. They were all personally trained by Di Baiming, and the remaining part was the secret guards that received regular training. Naturally, there was less killing intent. However, after this incident, these secret guards had learned their lesson. Especially the 20 people who had gone to change the array's core, they had all joined the elite secret guard battalion. The rest of the tasks were to clean up the battlefield and interrogate their statements. Yun Chujio felt that she could retire successfully. Hence, after this fellow had a good meal, he fell into a deep sleep until the next morning. Only then did she come to see the palace mistress and Di Baiming. When the palace mistress saw Yun Chujio, she smiled like a flower. "Little girl Jio, come to Auntie's place quickly. Have you had breakfast? What do you want to eat? I'll get someone to prepare it immediately." Yun Chujio saw the palace mistress' enthusiasm and was not used to it. "Auntie, you should talk to me normally. Otherwise, I'll feel a little cold." The palace master's wife chided jokingly, "You little girl, Do you like it when I scold you? Yun Chujio giggled. That's the way to be cordial. Are your injuries all right? It's not a big deal. Little Gio, it was me who wronged you in the past. I apologize to you. Can you forgive me? The palace master's wife asked with a face full of self-reproach. I have to consider this. After all, being called a trash by others really hurts people's self-esteem, especially for a thin-skinned girl like me. Yun Chujio said pretentiously. The palace mistress and Di Biming's eyes twitched violently. You're thin-skinned? Emma, don't joke around. If you were thin-skinned, there would probably be no shameless people in this world. Little Gio girl, it was indeed Aunt's fault in the past. How about this? I'll bring you to the Temple of Immortal's treasury. You can take whatever you like. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. Aunt, I remember that you said that you gave me the key to the treasury. If you gave me the key to the treasury, wouldn't all the things in the treasury be mine? Why should I pick anything? The palace mistress felt that some people like Yun Chujio were just trying to get on her good side, hence, her face darkened. Little Gio, am I being too kind to you? Hurry up and give me back the key to the treasury. I'll bring you to pick out a few pieces when I have time. Yun Chujio returned the key to the palace mistress. This fellow secretly pursed his lips. This old witch really uses people to face the front, but not the back. She flipped out faster than a book. I didn't say that I wouldn't give it to her. Why was she being so fierce? The palace master's wife also felt that she had gone a little overboard. However, if this little rascal didn't press down on her a little, she would be able to go up to the sky and stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun. Hence, the palace master's wife ignored this fellow and turned to ask Di Biming, Biming, how's the interrogation going? Has Dharma Protector Tao given an explanation? He has used all kinds of criminal law and is very stubborn. He didn't say anything. In the end, I could only use soul search. However, someone had left a mark on his soul, so I didn't get much useful information. The other small fries knew very little. They only told me that they were under the orders of Vice Palace Master Lu of the Netherworld Palace. They first took over the Temple of Immortals, then continued to expand and eventually took over the entire Tianyuan continent. Chapter 1331. The Palace Master's Wife sighed. I still remember the disaster 11 years ago. Compared to that time, it was not too serious this time. The people who came were not too strong. After all, those people had the power of the netherworld. Yun Chujio was confused. She blinked and asked, Prince Charming, and what happened back then? At first, Yun Chujio called Biming brother in front of the palace master's wife. But once, she called him Big Brother, and later, she simply called him Big Brother. Now, there was naturally nothing to hide. The palace master's wife briefly told her about what happened back then. The Netherworld Palace was the biggest force in the Netherworld continent, and its status was like the royal family in the secular world. The Netherworld Hall had always been drooling over the Tianyuan continent. They felt that the spiritual energy in the Tianyuan continent was much better than that in the Netherworld continent. Therefore, after many years of careful planning, they had almost succeeded 11 years ago. First, they sent people to infiltrate the various major factions as spies. Then, they took advantage of the time when the leaders of the various major factions were out or in closed-door cultivation to imprison all the women and family members of the various major factions. Then, they forced the various factions to submit. If there was anyone who did not agree to surrender, they would directly kill those people. Other than that, their spiritual power was also very high. What was even more difficult to deal with was that a portion of them also had the power of the netherworld. Their spiritual power contained the cold energy of the netherworld. Once the cold energy of the netherworld invaded their bodies, it was difficult to eradicate it. They could only suppress it with their spiritual power. Hence, the Tianyuan continent was in an extremely passive situation. Just when the Tianyuan continent was in a precarious situation, the 12-year-old Di Biming sneaked into the place where the women and their families were being held. Not only did he miraculously save them, but the people from the Netherworld Palace also died. Only Vice Palace Master Lu escaped with serious injuries. However, Ever since that time, Di Biming was also affected by the netherworld cold chi and suffered a lot of torture. As for how Di Biming had killed those people back then, even Di Biming himself did not know. At that time, he was also eager to save his mother. In addition, he was still young and fearless. He actually managed to sneak in. However, he was quickly discovered and was surrounded and beaten up. He had no recollection of what happened after that. When he woke up, he discovered that the ground was filled with the corpses of the netherworld hall guards. Then he saved them all. However, before that, Shui Wuji's mother's old illness had relapsed. As she did not receive timely treatment, she passed away. After hearing this, Yun Chujio guessed, "Prince Charming, could it be that an expert helped you but did not want to expose his tracks, so he left?" Di Biming nodded. "We also guessed the same. After that, I took the old man of the Heaven Lake as my teacher and entered the Tian Yuan Academy to study. I wanted to become stronger and be able to protect my family. However, I almost made the same mistake again. Luckily, I have you, little Gio. Otherwise, Prince Charming, what are you talking about? Am I not your family? Aunt is your mother and is not far from my mother. I naturally have to protect her. Aunt, don't you think so?" Yun Chujio said with a cheeky smile as she hugged the palace lord's wife's arm. The palace lord's wife scolded jokingly, "You little scoundrel. Although you saved me, you still have to enter the top 100 of the prodigy roll. Otherwise, I will always be your aunt." Di Biming was instantly excited when he heard that. Did his mother accept little Nine? The prodigy roll was not important. As long as his mother truly accepted little Nine, it was better than anything else. Chapter 1332. The new student. The three of them chatted for a while more before Yun Chujio asked, "Prince Charming, how did you find out that something was wrong? Logically speaking, you shouldn't have come back so quickly." "After I arrived at the Spirit Stone mine, I felt that something was amiss. Moreover, I brought out all the elites. If something really went wrong, it would be bad. The more I thought about it, the more I felt that something was amiss. Hence, I took care of the matters there and rushed back." Di Biming was extremely glad that he had made this decision, otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The palace master's wife sighed. "Actually, this matter was completely my negligence. If we were to strictly investigate, we wouldn't have allowed those people to sneak in. We wouldn't have allowed them to poison the food and water." "Oh right, Prince Charming, have you found that netherworld elixir? Give me some. I'll study how this thing is refined. This thing is really useful to trick people," Yun Chujio said with a smile. The palace master's wife and Di Biming's faces stiffened. Little Gio's thoughts were indeed different from those of ordinary people. After 2 days, Di Linhan, who had received the news, had rushed back in a hurry. He was naturally terrified and his attitude towards Yun Chujio had become much friendlier. After this incident, Yun Chujio had fully demonstrated to them that not only could she protect herself, but she could also protect others. After the two great gods had settled the matter, Yun Chujio's days in the Temple of Immortals were extremely comfortable. There was food to eat, play, and take. It was simply extremely comfortable. However, this fellow was a little unhappy. Ever since the last breakthrough, it had been several months since she had broken through. The spiritual energy in her body had long been saturated. If she could not break through, it was probably due to the lack of opportunities. Very quickly, it was once again the day of the opening of the Tian Yuan Academy. Yun Chujio had taken away quite a number of good things from the Hall of Immortals. However, this fellow knew how to cause trouble. He gave the palace mistress a large piece of the nine-tailed fox's fur and also gave Di Linhan an ancient profound iron chain. The two of them were naturally very satisfied, and the more they looked at the little lass, the more they found her pleasing to the eye. "Little Nine lass, when you return to the Tian Yuan Academy, you must cultivate well and enter the top 100 of the prodigy roll as soon as possible. Do you hear me?" The palace mistress used to be annoyed with Yun Chujio, but now, she was actually a little reluctant to part with her. She felt that it was not bad to marry this little scoundrel in as soon as possible. At least the longevity hall would be more lively. "Aunt, don't worry. I will strive to graduate in 3 years and then come back to help you look after the treasury. Yun Chujio's eyes were practically glowing when she thought of the Longevity Hall's treasury. You little scoundrel. You'd better scram quickly. The mistress of the temple master felt that she couldn't be too nice to this guy, or else she would definitely kick him in the face. Yun Chujio boarded the flying spirit tool and returned to the Tianyuan Academy under the reluctant of everyone. Yun Chujio first met Feng Ming and the other two, then went to see Dean Huangfu. She giggled and gave him gifts. She had to maintain this relationship or else, cough, cough, there would be no place to be struck by lightning. The dry old man was still in closed-door cultivation. She didn't know how the puppet research was going. The first-year freshmen's entrance examination had already ended, and another batch of new students had entered Tianyuan Academy. Yun Chujio couldn't help but sigh. Time passed really quickly. A year had passed just like that. 2 days later, Tianyuan Academy officially began. On the first day of class, Teacher Jisha said before class, "A new student has arrived in our Huang class. You guys should get to know each other." As Teacher Jisha spoke, a man in his 20s walked in. As the man entered, the entire classroom seemed to brighten up. Chapter 1333, Lan Luochen. When everyone saw the man's appearance, they could not help but hold their breaths. The man's long hair was tied together loosely with a white headband, and his appearance was even more stunning, especially that melancholic and deep gaze. It made people unable to help but be intoxicated. Lan Luochen. The man lightly opened his thin lips, lightly spat out 3 words and did not speak anymore. His entire person gave off a faint melancholic feeling. Seeing this, Teacher Jisha could only add, Lan Luochen is the new student who entered the school this time, but his foundation in all aspects is very good. He took the initiative to apply to jump to the 2nd grade, and the academy approved his request. From now on, he will be a student of the Huang class. All right, Lan Luochen, find an empty seat and sit down. Lan Luochen raised his eyes and indifferently glanced around. His gaze fell on Yun Chujio. Yes, the empty seat beside her. At this moment, Yun Chujio looked like a fool and was in a daze. Mermaid brother? Although Lan Luochen's eyes were black, his appearance was exactly the same as the mermaid brother. Could it be a coincidence? After Lan Luochen sat down, he did not even look at Yun Chujio. It was as if there was nothing beside him. Yun Chujio was extremely curious. It was not easy for her to make it to the end of the class. She turned around and asked with a smile, Lan Lun, do you know the mermaid brother? Lan Luochen looked at her indifferently and left after saying that he did not know her. Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders. It seemed that it was just that their looks were similar. Where was Big Brother Mermaid locked up? Lan Luochen was like a clear stream in the Huang class. Yes, he did not fit in with everyone. Other than attending class, there was no sign of him at all. It was as if he was invisible. However, there were many beauties, and Lan Luochen was like a grass in the Tianyuan Academy. Many girls would try their best to get close to Lan Luochen, but Lan Luochen ignored them. Then, the miserable Yun Chujio became the object of envy and hatred of the girls. Of course, in view of Yun Chujio's valiant performance, they only dared to gossip behind her back. In front of her, they absolutely did not dare to say anything. On this day, Yun Chujio came to the academy's entrance and waited for the secret guards of the Temple of Immortals to deliver the talisman papers. This fellow had already decided that he would always have a few hundred sacks of talisman papers in his storage ring, just in case. Right at this moment, a flying spirit tool flew over from the sky. From the looks of it, its grade was not low. After the flying spirit tool landed, 8 beautiful maids came down from it. They laid down a snow-white cashmere carpet and said respectfully to Lan Luochen, "Young master, please." Then, Lan Luochen stepped on the flying spirit tool on the carpet and left. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. Why was this routine so similar to the old witch's routine? Could it be that all pretenders had the same routine? In the next few days, Lan Luochen's family background spread. Did you know? Lan Luochen is the young master of the Lan family. Lan family? Which Lan family? The Lan family from the far north. Really? His? Oh my god, then why did he come to our Tianyuan Academy? Doesn't the far north have little contact with us? Besides, isn't there a Tianji Academy in the far north? Che, can the Tianji Academy compare to our Tianyuan Academy? Besides, as the young master of the Lan family, Lan Ruochen naturally has to come out for experiential learning. I guess it's considered experiential learning for him to come to our Tianyuan Academy. Well, the Lan family is very rich. I guess there will be more people chasing after Lan Ruochen this time. Chapter 1334 Puppet Disc. As expected, after Lan Ruochen's identity was exposed, some of the women who had been waiting to see what would happen immediately took action. When they met a man with such a great family background, good looks, and spiritual power, they would not make a move. When should they wait? Lan Ruochen was cold and indifferent. He was indifferent to the advances of his pursuers. Other than seeing people in class, he would spend the rest of his time in his dormitory. Even Yun Chujio, who sat at the same table as him, had not spoken to him much. Yun Chujio had tried to probe him a few times in the beginning, but when she saw that he was indifferent, she gave up. It seemed that he really only looked like him. He was not the big brother mermaid at all. Yun Chujio's spiritual power level could not be broken through, so this guy had to go to Dean Huangfu again. Dean Huangfu was still using the same excuse. He could only wait patiently for an opportunity and had no other good ideas. Just as Yun Chujio was feeling bored, the dry old man finally came out of seclusion. The moment the dry old man came out of seclusion, he ran excitedly to Yun Chujio's courtyard. "My precious disciple! My precious disciple! What do you think of my newly developed puppet?" The dry old man took out a refined iron puppet. Yun Chujio looked at it and found that there were no runes on the refined iron puppet. She guessed that the dry old man had already successfully followed the design of the array disc and placed the runes that controlled the puppet on the puppet's abdomen. Sure enough, Yun Chujio opened the abdomen of the puppet and placed a device similar to the disc array inside. The dry old man said proudly, "How is it? This is half a year of my hard work. With this disc array, I can make refined iron puppets on a large scale." Yun Chujio curled her lips. What's the use of having so many idiots who don't distinguish between friend and foe? They can only be used to block it. The old man was so angry that he jumped up. "You little brat, it's easy to say. Why don't you try creating one for me? Forget about those who can differentiate between friend and foe. Even if you can create a refined iron puppet for me, even if you have the ability." Yun Chujio's fighting spirit was also stimulated. "Creating a puppet, isn't it just a broken puppet? Get me a furnace, and it'll definitely get you a clever puppet." The dry old man directly waved his hand, and a furnace for refining artifacts appeared in the courtyard. "Humph, little brat, if you can make that kind of puppet you mentioned, I will call you master." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "Master, how can I refine this without earth fire?" The dry old man then threw a jade box to Yun Chujio. This cold jade box contains fire marrow. One piece can be burned for a long time. "You little brat." Yun Chujio took the box with a smile. "Master, don't worry. I will not let this fire marrow go to waste. I will definitely make a world-shaking puppet." The old man pursed his lips. This guy was really a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers. He was even world-shaking? If you could make an ordinary iron puppet, it was already considered your ability. From this day onwards, Yun Chujio would use it to fiddle with puppets when she was not in class. The old man surnamed Ian was still crazy. Yun Chujio even suspected that he was doing it on purpose. Otherwise, why would he be fine without asking him about puppet techniques? Why would he go crazy when he asked about puppet techniques? "Fuck, I won't ask you anymore. I'll do it myself. I don't believe that I can't create a clever puppet." This fellow was also quite generous. She threw a 10,000-year-old black iron chain into the furnace and then sadly discovered that after several hours, the 10,000-year-old black iron chain hadn't changed at all. This fellow slapped her thigh, and she was also dumbfounded. If the 10,000-year-old black iron melted after being burned by fire, what kind of 10,000-year-old black iron would it be? Chapter 1335 Creating a Puppet by Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio had no choice but to put away the 10,000-year-old mysterious iron chain and use ordinary refined iron to refine it. Needless to say, it was really a success. She followed the dry old man's method and made a puppet disc and placed it inside the puppet. After placing spirit stones on it, the puppet would be considered a success. However, Yun Chujio was not happy at all because this puppet was no different from the puppet created by the dry old man. It would only attack when it was attacked by spirit energy or when it felt the fluctuation of spirit energy. Moreover, it was impossible to distinguish between friend and foe. Even Yun Chujio could beat it up. But what's the use of such a puppet? It's better to have none. It might even hurt itself. Yun Chujio thought for a long time but could not think of any good idea. She could only let out the old man surnamed Een again. Old man Een, I just want to ask you one thing. How can this puppet become more intelligent? The old man glanced at the puppet that Yun Chujio had refined and curled his lips indiscernibly. He talked crazily, but at the end he said, "Only a puppet with a soul imprint is a good puppet." After the old man said that, he continued to act crazily. Yun Chujio's heart moved. After putting the old man away, she touched her chin and pondered the meaning behind the old man's words. Only a puppet with a spiritual imprint was a good puppet? That was to say, when creating a puppet, one had to leave the master's spiritual imprint on it. But how could one leave a spiritual imprint on the puppet? Yun Chujio was puzzled. She asked the old man with the surname Een again, but he still pretended to be crazy and said nonsense. Yun Chujio was so angry that she could only go to the library to find the answer herself. Yun Chujio looked through the talismans and array formation books in the library and had an idea. Perhaps she could separate a bit of my spiritual sense and then inject it into the puppet disc when she was refining it. Yes, that's what she should do. This guy's courage was really shocking. A cultivator's spiritual sense was extremely fragile. Even if it was damaged during normal times, it was still a big taboo, let alone forcefully separating it out. Although it was very small, it was still very dangerous. Yun Chujio, this fellow, completely didn't care about these things. This fellow had his own fallacies. Since spiritual sense could grow, then this thing was like spiritual energy. If it was gone, then it could be replenished. Thus, this fellow began to follow her plan. When refining the puppet disc, he forcefully separated his spiritual sense and injected it into the puppet disc. Although Yun Chujio felt a slight pain in her divine sense, she did not think it was a big deal. She swallowed a spirit-replenishing pill and continued to refine the puppet disc. The puppet disc was finally successfully refined. Yun Chujio excitedly placed the puppet disc on the abdomen of the refined iron puppet. After filling it with spirit stones, the puppet was activated. Yun Chujio tried to use her divine sense to communicate with her own divine sense imprint in the puppet disc. After establishing a divine sense connection, Yun Chujio said to the puppet, "Number 1, help me pick a fruit." As expected, the refined iron puppet walked to the tree and picked a fruit for Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio was so happy that she was going crazy. She kept ordering the puppet to do this and that. After experimenting for a while, she felt very satisfied. Then she sent a message to the dry old man, "Good disciple, come quickly. My puppet has been successfully developed." After the dry old man received the message, he curled his lips disdainfully, "Humph. Little brat, I want to see what kind of damn thing you have developed." Chapter 1336 Yun Chujio's puppet number 1. As soon as the old man entered Yun Chujio's courtyard, he saw a refined iron puppet standing next to Yun Chujio. From the looks of it, it was no different from an ordinary refined iron puppet. "Little brat, is this the clever puppet you were talking about?" "Yes, master. If my puppet is really clever, you don't have to call me master. I don't dare to ask for a disciple of your age. Just give me a few more of your good things," Yun Chujio said with a smile. The dry old man curled his lips. "If this puppet is really like what you said, it can distinguish between friends and enemies, and it also has a preliminary intelligence, it'll give you all my treasures, not to mention a few." "Master, you said it yourself. Don't go back on your words." I won't refuse anyone. The dry old man snorted. Of course, you mean what you say. Stop wasting time. I want to see how smart your puppet is. Yun Chujio smiled slyly and said to the puppet, Number 1, go and pour a cup of tea for my master. The old man was amused. Little girl, are you crazy? The puppet poured tea for me? It knows how to pour tea? What a joke. The old man's words stopped abruptly because the puppet picked up the teapot and really poured a cup of tea for the old man. Moreover, it was 80% full. Number 1, pick a plate of fruits for my master. I want the red ones, not the green ones. Puppet number 1 picked up the empty plate on the table and quickly went to the bottom of the tree. He picked a few red fruits and placed them on the stone table. The old man was already dumbfounded. Yun Chujio picked up a fruit and waved it in front of the old man's eyes. Master, you've come back to your senses. How is it? My puppet number 1 is not bad, right? The old man suddenly stood up and took out a refined iron puppet from his storage bag. Let it fight with my puppet. Let me have a look. Yun Chujio said to puppet number 1 indifferently, Number 1, show it what you've got. Puppet number 1 punched at the refined iron puppet. The refined iron puppet was not willing to be outdone. It raised its fist and fought back. The two puppets fought each other. The dry old man soon noticed the difference between the two puppets. His refined iron puppet didn't know how to dodge at all and only attacked. Yun Chujio's puppet was obviously much smarter. Not only did it attack in a methodical way, but it also knew how to dodge. It also knew how to dodge and kept attacking the refined iron puppet's abdomen. Obviously, it knew where its weakness was. Not long after, the refined iron puppet was flipped to the ground by puppet number 1. Moreover, he took out the spirit stones from its abdomen. The refined iron puppet was completely defeated. The dry old man's mouth was open like a wooden stake as he stood there in a daze. He did not speak for a long time. Clearly, he was quite shocked. Yun Chujio chewed on the fruit without saying a word. At this time, she had to have the demeanor of an expert. The dry old man finally came to his senses. His old face was full of excitement. My precious disciple, how did you make this puppet? Yun Chujio looked at the dry old man with a smile. Master, do you want to know how it was made? The dry old man nodded repeatedly. Yes, my good disciple, my good disciple. Quickly tell master. It's not impossible to tell you. Where are the good things you promised me? You said you would give all the good things to me. Yun Chujio stretched out her claws and said. Chapter 1337. Yun Chujio's puppet number 2. The old man took out a few spiritual tools and gave them to Yun Chujio. Good disciple, you should at least leave some coffins for master, right? Take these first. Master will give you a few more when he gets something good in the future. Yun Chujio felt that old man Xiaogan would get angry if she took more, so she stopped and told him about the process of making the puppet number 1. After the old man heard it, the impact he received was no weaker than when he saw puppet number 1. He shouted angrily, Nonsense! This is simply nonsense. Don't you know that the spiritual sense is the weakest part of a cultivator? You actually tried to split your spiritual sense? This is too much nonsense. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Master, but I'm fine. I'll make up for it when my spiritual sense is missing. Although the dry old man didn't believe it, he could only sigh when he saw that Yun Chujio was really fine. This guy was a pervert. How could he be fine like this? However, the dry old man also extinguished the thought of developing this kind of puppet. He didn't have such a perverted spiritual sense. He was actually fine even though he was forcefully isolated. Yun Chujio took out a 10,000-year-old mysterious iron chain and gave it to the dry old man. Master, this is a good thing that I got in the Academy's forbidden area. I didn't give it to you when you were in seclusion. The old man naturally knew what it was. He was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. This was a good thing. Master, it is said that this 10,000-year-old black iron chain is extremely powerful. How can I refine it? Yun Chujio asked curiously. Ordinary earth fire and fire marrow are not enough. Only 10,000-year-old fire marrow can do it. However, 10,000-year-old fire marrow can be encountered but not sought. However, this 10,000-year-old black iron chain can still be placed on other spirit tools. For example, a handle can be used as a whip. It is not a bad idea. Yun Chujio's eyes lit up. This idea was not bad. She still had 3 10,000-year-old profound iron chains. If it really did not work, when she met the enemy again, she would just use it as a whip. The opponent's spirit tool would definitely not be able to withstand the 10,000-year-old profound iron chain. It might even be destroyed. Right? If only she could find the 10,000-year-old fire marrow. When that time came, she could release the Meng Yanshou. With that great killing tool, who would she be afraid of? Ha! The dry old man saw Yun Chujio giggling foolishly and scolded jokingly, "Little brat, what are you thinking about? Master, where is the 10,000-year-old fire marrow? Let's go and get some." "Humph! You wish. Don't say that you don't know where it is. Even if there is, you will be roasted into ashes before you even get close to the fire marrow. Don't think about it anymore. Hurry up and cultivate. It's so embarrassing to be only at the 5th level of the spirit sect after such a long time." Yun Chujio didn't explain herself, because something suddenly came to her mind. She was so excited that she started dancing. "Master, are you all right? If you're fine, then go back. It's getting late, I'm going to sleep." The dry old man raised his head and looked at the sun above his head. It was noon and it was getting late? Even if you were lying, could you be a little more sincere? However, the dry old man had just obtained a 10,000-year-old black iron chain, and he was in a good mood. He did not argue with her and left after scolding her with a smile. Yun Chujio, on the other hand, started to go through a lot of trouble. She rummaged through her storage ring, and finally, she let the ball of wool choose among the great void mystic realm. Finally, she chose a piece of wood. 3 days later, Yun Chujio was sitting on a recliner in the courtyard. A man in white was kneeling on the ground, helping Yun Chujio massage her legs. "Pretty boy, are you stupid? Why are you using so much strength to massage my legs? Are you trying to kill me? Pretty boy, have you not eaten? You're so weak, you're so stupid. How can there be such a stupid person like you in this world?" Chapter 1338. The gigolo kneels. Yun Chujio gave the man in white a good thrashing. Then, the man put his hands on his waist and laughed out loud. "Gigolo, you have such a day. Kneel down, don't get up until the sun sets." The man in white obediently kneeled under the sun. His face was surprisingly beaming. The little black bird had no strength to complain. "Master, although you have suffered a lot from the gigolo in the past, if you have the ability, go and settle the score with the gigolo. Is it really interesting for you to fool yourself with such a toy? Of course." Yun Chujio found it very interesting. I am going to rehearse this in advance. When I become the master in the future, I will torture the gigolo like this. It is not too late for a little girl to take revenge. Number 2, stop kneeling. Come here and let me kick you a few times. I will vent my anger. Thus, Yun Chujio kicked puppet number 2 a few times. Puppet number 2 was made from a tree trunk from the great void mystic realm. It was very flexible, so even though it was being tortured by Yun Chujio, it was still fine. From this day onwards, Yun Chujio started to torture number 2's life. This fellow felt that he finally had a place to vent his previous frustration. Xiao Hanio could not stand it anymore. "Master, although number 2 is a puppet, isn't it a little too much for you to torment him like this?" Yun Chujio curled her lips. "How am I too much? Isn't it just kicking him a few times for no reason, making him kneel and wash his clothes, and basking in the sun for no reason?" Xiao Hanio looked at puppet number 2 who was kneeling on the ground and was speechless. Was he basking in the sun? There was a pretty boy on the left side of his face and Di Beiyu on the right side. It looked like he was being tortured. Yun Chujio was bickering with Xiao Hanio when Di Baiming suddenly appeared in front of Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio was stunned. Then she closed her eyes and mumbled, "An illusion! An illusion! This must be an illusion. How can a pretty boy appear here? I must be having an illusion because there's something wrong with me." Xiao Hanio's voice came from her divine sense. "Master, It's really the gigolo. Yun Chujio still did not dare to open her eyes, but her eyelids kept twitching. This guy knew that he was going to die. Di Baiming sneered, Xiaojiao, I thought you helped me beat my legs and pour tea from the bottom of your heart. I didn't expect you to think that I was torturing you? Kicking you a few times? Washing clothes on your knees? Pretty boy? Di Bayu? Yun Chujio could only force herself to open her eyes. Aya. My dear Prince Charming, my dear brother Baiming, you're here? I've missed you so much. Come, give me a kiss first. Xiao Hanio couldn't bear to look at her anymore. It had been a long time since he saw his master being so obsequious. Master, this is all your own doing. You should seek your own fortune. Di Baiming turned his body to the side to avoid Yun Chujio's kiss. He snorted coldly and said, Don't give me that. Can you explain to me what the hell is that thing kneeling on the ground? Di Baiming was so angry that he was about to explode. Yun Chujio's birthday was almost over. After he greeted Dean Huangfu, he activated the concealment talisman to give Yun Chujio a surprise. Who would have thought that he would see a thing that looked exactly like him being tortured by Yun Chujio? When she saw the words written on the face of the thing, she could not stand it anymore and revealed her figure. Yun Chujio was in the wrong. She could only smile and say, My Prince Charming, isn't this just to entertain yourself? If you don't vent your anger, I will make a puppet that looks exactly like me and give it to you tomorrow. You can do whatever you want. Even if you make it kneel every day, I will not be angry. Chapter 1339. A long-time wife becomes a mother-in-law. Baiming snorted coldly, I'm not as boring as you. You don't cultivate properly for a day and you only know how to mess around. If you do this, when will you be able to enter the top 100 of the prodigy roll? Hee, Prince Charming, are you in a hurry to marry me? Don't worry, I'll definitely cultivate properly. Isn't this a bottleneck? That's why I created this little thing. Although I have some small thoughts to vent my anger, doesn't it also indirectly mean that I miss you? I created this thing to relieve the pain of lovesickness. Yun Chujio said with a face full of admiration. Xiao Hanio's admiration for its black-hearted master was like a torrential river. It really knew how to speak. This time, the gigolo would definitely not let it go. As expected, when Di Baiming heard Yun Chujio's heartfelt words, his anger dissipated a lot. He snorted coldly, This is the only time. It won't happen again. Destroy this damn thing immediately. It actually looks exactly like me. This is outrageous. Although Yun Chujio's heart ached, in order to not be cleaned up, she could only take out the puppet plate from puppet number 2 and let Xiao Hanio burn it into ashes. Only then did Di Baiming remember to ask, What is this? Is it a puppet? Is there such a puppet? Yun Chujio was immediately energized. She took out puppet number 1 and showed off. You are too bold. What if something really happens? After listening to Yun Chujio's explanation of the production process, Di Baiming was so angry that he slammed the stone table. The stone table shattered. Yun Chujio was so scared that she shrunk her neck. However, she knew that Di Baiming was thinking of her. Otherwise, he would not be so angry. Even puppet number 2 did not make him so angry. Prince Charming, I know what to do. Didn't I absorb the remnant soul of the nine-tailed fox last time? I was thinking that this divine sense can be increased, but it can also be reduced. When I separated, I tried it bit by bit until there were no problems. Only then did I completely separate. Don't be angry. I won't mess around next time. Yun Chujio was like a bullied wife, she said carefully. Di Baiming was still angry and ignored her. Yun Chujio eagerly took out a stone table from her storage ring. Then she massaged her shoulders, poured tea, and hammered her legs. She was very attentive. Xiao Hanio covered his mouth with his wings and almost laughed out loud. This was karma. Just a moment ago, he had ordered puppet number 2 to be taken care of, but now, the evil master had done it all. Prince Charming, why are you here? Are you thinking that I don't want it anymore? Di Baiming's anger had almost subsided. This time, he did not rebuke Yun Chujio. He took out a box from his storage ring and said, This is my parents' birthday gift to you. Yun Chujia's eyes lit up. She opened the box and saw a beautiful jade hairpin and a jade token inside. Obviously, the jade hairpin was given by the palace master's wife, and the jade token was given by Di Linhan. Yun Chujio almost wanted to cry. Fuck, a long-time wife turned into a mother-in-law. The pretty boy's shameless parents had finally been taken down by her. Prince Charming, then what gift did you give me? Yun Chujio asked sneakily. Di Baiming snorted coldly. I didn't punish you just now because I gave you a gift. Prince Charming, actually, you being able to come is the best gift you can give me. You don't even know that I miss you day and night. Even in my dreams, it's you. Yun Chujio spouted nonsense shamelessly. Chapter 1340. What about Chi-Chi? Although Di Baiming knew that Yun Chujio was trying to please him, he still felt very comfortable when he heard Yun Chujia's words. The corners of his mouth could not help but curl up. After Yun Chujio caught a glimpse of it, she was very pleased. HMH, the gigolo was the same as the old witch. They both had the character of a tortoise. She had the best experience in dealing with such people. She would just have to smooth things over. Prince Charming, how long can you stay with me this time? I really want to be with you all the time. You can stay with me for a few more days. Yun Chujio decided to continue her efforts. No matter what, she had to get the gift. Di Baiming said with a little disappointment, I am naturally willing to stay with you for a few more days. However, there are many people with high spiritual power in the Tianyuan Institute. If I stay for a long time, I am afraid that I will be discovered by others. When that time comes, it will not be good. Prince Charming, why didn't you come back in the name of returning to the school like last year? Di Baiming snorted with disdain. It was only the idea of that idiot Shui Wuji. It's fine if it's just once, but if it's used again, someone will definitely suspect it. Oh right, Prince Charming, why hasn't there been any news about Brother Wuji recently? Di Baiming smiled meaningfully. I heard that the sect master of the Blood Devil sect is forcing Shui Wuji to get married. I guess he can't take care of himself anymore. What? Brother Wuji is getting married? Yun Chujio, who was sitting on the chair, suddenly stood up. Di Baiming's face immediately darkened. Shui Wuji is getting married. Why are you so excited? Do you have any other thoughts? The sour tone in Di Baiming's words could even be felt by the little black bird on the tree. Yun Chujio naturally knew that Xiao Hanyo had misunderstood again, hence, she explained, of course I don't have any thoughts, but I still want to leave Brother Wuji to Chi-Chi. If he marries, what will happen to Chi-Chi? The corner of Di Baiming's eyes twitched violently. That Yun Chi was still in the modern era, yet you want to leave her? If she could not go to the Tianyuan continent for the rest of her life, could it be that Shui Wuji could not get married for the rest of his life? Yun Chujio also felt that her idea was not very realistic. She said embarrassedly, I always feel that I will see Chi-Chi again. However, since Brother Wuji is going to get married, I will introduce someone else to Chi-Chi then. Actually, Brother Mermaid is not bad, but I don't know where he is locked up. Oh right, Prince Charming, there is a new student in our class. Besides the color of his eyes, he looks exactly like Brother Mermaid. Unfortunately, I tried to test him a few times, but there was no response. I think it's just a coincidence. Yun Chujio sighed. Di Baiming raised his eyebrows. He looks the same as that mermaid? What's his background? Why did he suddenly come to your class? I heard that he did well in the entrance exam and skipped a grade. He seems to be some young master of the Lan family in the far north. He's like an invisible person every day. Although he's my desk mate, we haven't talked much. Yun Chujio said nonchalantly. Di Baiming's heart skipped a beat. He felt that things were not that simple. Since his grades were good and he skipped a grade, why didn't he enter the heavenly class? Why did he choose the yellow class instead? Why did he specially become Little Nine's deskmate? Damn it, Little Nine's deskmate could only be the main body. Who was he? The Lan family in the far north could be said to be able to summon wind and rain in the far north. Why did they travel hundreds of thousands of miles to come to Tianyuan Academy to study? And they just happened to enter Little Nine's class and become Little Nine's deskmate. Chapter 1341. D. Biming's Gift. Although D. Biming's heart was in turmoil, he said calmly, "Little Gio, although the Een family has been very quiet recently, it's inevitable that they will take action again. Moreover, the Netherworld Hall might attack again, not to mention that the Divine Devil Hall is still waiting in the dark for an opportunity to strike. So, you have to remain vigilant and not trust others easily." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and immediately understood D. Biming's meaning. She nodded and said, "Although Lan Luochen looks similar to Big Brother Mermaid, to me, he is just a classmate. Moreover, he is not as close to the other students in the Huang class." D. Biming was very satisfied with Yun Chujio's attitude. As for Lan Luochen, he would naturally send his underlings to gather information. If there was nothing unusual, it would be fine. But if he found out that something was wrong, even if it was a faction in the northernmost region, he would get rid of it as well. Yun Chujio saw that D. Biming did not mention the birthday present. She rolled her eyes and said, "Prince Charming, I didn't expect aunt and uncle to give me a birthday present. They are so good to me. I am so touched." D. Biming felt funny in his heart. He naturally understood that Yun Chujio was beating around the bush to test the present he gave her. He nodded lightly. Seeing that D. Biming did not take the bait, Yun Chujio continued, "Sai, Brother Wuji is forced to get married. I don't think he will come to give me a birthday present. It seems that I can only get these 2 birthday presents for my birthday this year." D. Biming hummed in agreement again. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. "Humph, what the hell? You gigolo, you clearly know what I want to ask, but you just won't say it. I'm so angry." While Yun Chujio was fuming with anger, D. Biming took out a box and gave it to Yun Chujio. "Your birthday present." Yun Chujio immediately smiled like a flower. "My Prince Charming, you are too polite. I knew my Prince Charming would definitely give me a birthday present." Yun Chujio couldn't wait to open the small box. Inside was a purple jade pendant with a strange fish on the back. It proved that there was an D character. Yun Chujio asked curiously, "My Prince Charming, what is this jade pendant for?" "You can take this jade pendant to the Temple of Immortals for free. Are you satisfied with it? If not, I can change it to another gift for you." Yes, I'm very satisfied." Yun Chujio quickly put the jade pendant into her storage ring. What a joke. She would be a fool if she did not like it. With this jade pendant, did she have anything she wanted? Another day, she would go to the Temple of Immortal shop to plunder. D. Biming had originally planned to stay for a little longer, but unfortunately, Yun Chujio's identity jade pendant started to tremble, and she requested that all students above the 2nd grade immediately gather at the Tianyuan Square. Seeing this, D. Biming had no choice but to flirt with Yun Chujio for a while, then activate the concealment talisman and leave. After Yun Chujio arrived at the Tianyuan Square, she realized that other than the new students, all the students had arrived. Did something happen? Very quickly, Yun Chujio found out the answer. It turned out that the Great Wilderness Mystic Realm had appeared. The time when the Great Wilderness Mystic Realm appeared is not fixed. It has been thousands of years since it last appeared. Today, it actually appeared in the Tianyuan Academy again. I have to say that you guys are lucky. Such an opportunity is not something that every batch of students can catch up to. You guys must seize the opportunity. Chapter 1342. The Strange Little Fish. Dean Huangfu continued. There are many demonic beasts and spiritual herbs in the Great Wilderness Mystic Realm that are only available in the ancient times. Therefore, this trial will not only increase your spiritual power, but you will also reap a bountiful harvest. Of course, the Great Wilderness Mystic Realm is also very dangerous. If you encounter danger, you can activate your identity jade tokens. At that time, you will be teleported out. Don't be greedy and lose your lives. The trial period is 1 month. At the end of 1 month, you will be teleported out without activating your identity jade tokens. After Dean Huangfu gave a simple speech, everyone went to the so-called Great Wilderness Mystic Realm according to the class order. The place where the Great Wilderness Mystic Realm appeared was not far from the place where Yun Chujio found the 9-tailed fox was trapped. The entrance was suspended in midair. Before entering, Everyone could feel an ancient and desolate aura. The students were very excited. They had actually encountered such a once-in-thousand-years opportunity. They were really lucky. It was said that the spiritual energy in the grand desolate realm was much denser than outside. Even if they cultivated inside, it would still be very good. Moreover, there might even be some opportunities. If they could pick up some extinct high-grade spirit herbs, then they would make a huge profit. If they were lucky enough to catch an ancient exotic beast as a spiritual pet, it would be a huge advantage. Yun Chujio was not very happy, because this guy felt that if it was not for the appearance of the great wilderness mystic realm, the gigolo would not have left. It was all because of this damn great wilderness mystic realm. He did not come out early or late, but he had to come out at this time. How annoying! After everyone had entered, Yun Chujio casually jumped in as well. This time, there was nothing unusual. Either the great wilderness mystic realm did not have a Qi-ling, or the Qi-ling was a sensible person. After the white light flashed, Yun Chujio realized that the scene in front of her was a beauty she had never seen before. In the midst of the clouds and mist, there were strange flowers and plants. There were even pools of water that were emitting steam. It was actually a hot spring. Yun Chujio walked to the side of the hot spring curiously. There were strange little fish swimming around inside, looking exceptionally cute. The little fish was bright red all over, but there was a golden pattern on the belly of the fish. What was even more peculiar was that there were 2 claws on its belly, which were paddling around in the water. Yun Chujio got playful and took out a piece of demon beast meat. She was ready to throw it into the water to play with the fish, but she didn't expect the fish to jump out of the water as soon as she took out the demon beast meat. She opened her mouth, revealing the sharp teeth inside, and went straight for the demon beast meat in Yun Chujio's hand. Yun Chujio was shocked and quickly let go. After the demon beast meat fell into the water, it was completely eaten by the fish in just a few seconds. Yun Chujio could not help but feel a chill on her back. These small fish looked harmless, but she did not expect them to be so ferocious. They must have jumped up when they smelled the blood of the demon beast meat. It was better for her to leave as soon as possible. Just as Yun Chujio was about to leave, the ground began to shake. Yun Chujio quickly hid behind a bush. A huge demon beast walked over. Yun Chujio had seen this kind of demon beast in the ancient demon beast illustration in the library. It was a wild single-horned violent bull. It was an ancient demon beast of the 25th level, equivalent to the first level of the spiritual venerable realm of a human cultivator. The savage horned violent bull walked to the edge of the pond. It was probably going to drink water. Yun Chujio couldn't help but wonder. Wasn't this savage horned violent bull afraid that the strange fish would bite off its tongue? What happened next shocked Yun Chujio. Chapter 1343. Just a bystander. The wild one-horned bull roared at the water, then lowered its huge head, and the strange fish jumped onto the wild one-horned bull's body. Then, it fixed itself on the wild one-horned bull's body with its claws. After the wild one-horned bull lowered its head and drank the water, it left slowly. The small fish didn't jump back into the water, but were taken away by the wild one-horned bull. Yun Chujio was puzzled. What was the meaning of this? Did the fish not want to live anymore? Did they want to leave the water and become dried fish? Besides, what was the wild single-horned ox thinking? Was it not afraid that the strange fish would bite it to pieces? Yun Chujio thought for a while and could not figure it out. She decided not to think about it anymore. She walked in the opposite direction of the wild single-horned ox. Yun Chujio walked forward while picking spiritual herbs. Although some of the spiritual herbs were not high level, they were lost. Yun Chujio dug them up and brought them into the great void mystic realm. As for the high-level ones, Yun Chujio dug them up and stored them in her storage ring. After walking for about an hour, Yun Chujio heard the mooing of the bull. Yun Chujio was stunned. She deliberately chose the opposite direction. Could it be that she met another wild one-horned violent bull? Yun Chujio did not dare to walk forward. She hid in the bushes again and carefully looked outside. Not far away, there were 2 wild one-horned wild bulls lying lazily on the ground. There were some red things on their bodies. They were the strange fish with long claws. The strange fish used their claws to continuously pull the long hair of the wild one-horned wild bull. From time to time, they would eat something. Yun Chujio suddenly realized that these strange fish were helping the wild one-horned wild bull get rid of the small bugs on its body. Such things were not rare. Crocodiles had toothpick birds, rhinoceroses had rhinoceroses and birds. They were all mutually beneficial. It seemed that these fish and the wild one-horned wild bull also had this kind of relationship. They would probably get rid of the bugs in a while. The wild one-horned wild bull would send these strange fish back into the pool. Sure enough, after a while, the strange fish gathered on the body of a wild one-horned wild bull. The wild one-horned wild bull got up and walked towards the pool. Yun Chujio did not intend to provoke the remaining wild one-horned bull, so she carefully prepared to take a detour. However, she did not expect that she accidentally broke a tree branch. The wild one-horned bull immediately rushed towards the bushes. Yun Chujio ran away and shouted while running, "I'm just passing by. I'm just a bystander. Don't chase me. Aren't all your bulls vegetarian? Meat. My body is full of meat." The wild single-horned bull was confused when it heard that. It started mooing, and the same mooing came from afar. Obviously, the other wild single-horned bull heard its companion's voice and responded. The wild single-horned bull wouldn't come back, right? If it came back, it would be even worse. She had to get rid of this one quickly, or else she wouldn't be able to deal with two of them. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio stopped in her tracks. "Old bull, I'm warning you. Leave now and well pretend that we've never met. If you continue to chase after me, don't blame me for being impolite." The wild one-horned bull barked in disdain and then rushed towards Yun Chujio, drooling. Yun Chujio had now confirmed one thing. It really ate meat. Chapter 1344. The stubborn bull. Yun Chujio jumped more than 100 feet away and dodged the attack of the wild, single-horned bull. She sneered and said, "Old bull, I'm giving you one last chance. If you still persist, don't blame me for killing the bull." The wild, single-horned bull completely ignored Yun Chujio and rushed towards Yun Chujio again. Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. "Since you're looking for death, don't blame me. I'll turn you into minced beef." Yun Chujio took out a burst talisman and threw it at the wild ox. Then, Yun Chujio realized that the burst talismans didn't react at all. Damn it! Couldn't talismans be used here? She had prepared hundreds of sacks. Why did no one mention that talismans could not be used here? It really killed her. Actually, her teacher had mentioned it, but this fellow was full of resentment about Beiming leaving and did not pay attention to it at that time. Hence, this fellow was in deep trouble. Initially, she thought that she could use the super-grade explosive talismans to blow up this barbaric ox, but now, the talismans could not be used and she could only use her spirit energy to attack. Yun Chujio recalled the heroic performance of the spiritual power piglet in the Temple of Immortals, and she felt a little more confident. She then released a cute spiritual power piglet towards the barbaric ox. When the barbaric ox saw the spiritual power piglet released by Yun Chujio, it was so shocked that it froze on the spot. What the hell was this thing? A pig? Didn't humans release wolves, tigers, and leopards? How could a human transform into a pig? Or a piglet? Was this a joke? Just as the savage one-horned bull was in a daze, the spiritual piglet had already rushed in front of it and bit down on its horn. Yun Chujio couldn't bear to look at it. "Emma, you're really a pig." The savage one-horned bull's horn was the strongest part of its body. You should bite its eyes, ears, and so on. As expected, the spiritual power piglet did not cause any damage to the horn of the savage one-horned ox. Instead, it was kicked away by the savage one-horned ox. Yun Chujio had no choice but to release another spiritual power piglet. She used her spiritual sense and said, "Attack its eyes and ears. Don't be stupid and attack that horn." The spiritual power piglet pounced on the savage one-horned ox. The savage one-horned ox directly stabbed at the spiritual power piglet with its horn. It thought to itself, "I will directly make you disappear. Then I'll bite that stinky girl to death in one go." Unexpectedly, When the spiritual energy piglet saw the wild one-horned violent bull charging over, it actually turned a corner and bit on the wild one-horned violent bull's ear. Yun Chujio took the opportunity to shoot out several small purple needles, all aimed at the weak parts of the wild one-horned violent bull. The wild one-horned violent bull was only focused on dealing with the spiritual energy piglet. It did not expect Yun Chujio to launch another attack. When it found out, it was a little confused. The stinky girl had already released a pig. How could she still use spiritual power to attack? Wasn't this a high-level spiritual power materialization technique? If it wasn't a high-level spiritual power materialization technique, how could this damn piglet know how to turn around? Right, wasn't this stinky girl at the 5th level of the spirit sect? How could she know the intermediate level materialization technique, let alone a high-level materialization technique? But where did this little piggy come from? The wild one-horned bull was obviously a little stubborn. You should have avoided the little purple needle first. You can think about these stupid questions later. No, he just sat there thinking about these questions. Chapter 1345. The piglet that bit the ox's tail. By the time the wild ox finally realized that they were in a fight, Yun Chujio's purple needles had arrived. Several purple needles shot into its eyes. Along with the cracking sound, the wild ox screamed and rolled on the ground. Yun Chujio threw several purple needles at the wild ox. After a few cracking sounds, the wild ox finally died. Before Yun Chujio could escape, another wild one-horned ox, which was full of strange small fish, ran back and rushed towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio hurriedly jumped to dodge. Unexpectedly, the strange small fish on the wild one-horned ox actually jumped towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio quickly activated her defensive spirit tool. Damn it, I don't have any bugs on me for you to eat. What shocked Yun Chujio was that the strange little fish's claws were like suckers that were attached to the defensive barrier. Then, their sharp teeth began to gnaw on the defensive barrier. The defensive barrier actually started to be destroyed quickly. The teeth of these strange little fish were simply too terrifying. At the same time, the wild single-horned bull also rushed towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio had no choice but to release her spirit energy piglet again. The cute spirit piglet went straight for the wild single-horned bull's ear and bit it. This wild single-horned bull was also stunned when it saw the spirit piglet, but it was obviously smarter than the other one. It directly used its horn to stab the spirit piglet. After the spirit piglet dodged, it once again bit the wild single-horned bull. Yun Chujio felt that this was not good. The spirit piglet's spirit energy was limited. It would dissipate after a few rounds. It would be great if there were a few spirit piglets. Yun Chujio could not help but curse herself for being a pig when she thought of this. She was using an intermediate-level spiritual power materialization technique, not a high-level spiritual power materialization technique. She could definitely release a lot of spiritual power little piglets. How could she have missed this point? Yun Chujio waved her hands left and right repeatedly. As a result, more than 10 spiritual power little piglets pounced on the wild one-horned violent bull and the strange little fish on the defensive barrier. The savage horned bull was completely dumbfounded. What was going on? Could it be that the little girl was using an intermediate-level physical transformation technique? How was this possible? How could an intermediate-level physical transformation technique create something that was so agile? This savage horned bull was obviously as stubborn as the previous one, and at the critical moment, 5 spiritual piglets pounced on it. Some bit its ears, some bit its nose, some bit its neck, and some even bit its tail. Yun Chujio was so angry that she laughed. It was understandable that it bit other places, but that little piglet that bit its tail, come, let me ask you, I promise I won't beat you to death. What do you mean by biting the tail of the ox? Yun Chujio looked at the few little piglets of spiritual power on the spiritual power shield again. These few were much more reliable and directly swallowed the strange little fish. Although they didn't kill it, at least they got the strange little fish to the ground. Yun Chujio raised the rolling pin and smashed it flat. After dealing with the strange little fish, Chujio shot a few purple needles at the wild single-horned wild bull. The wild single-horned wild bull was badly bitten by a few spiritual piglets, so it was a little slow to dodge. A few purple needles shot into its eyes and nostrils. Along with the cracking sound, the wild single-horned wild bull struggled a few times on the ground and died. Chujio put the two wild one-horned bulls into her storage ring and said delightedly, "I have something for dinner tonight. It's time to rinse the beef." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.